When reading from the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 8, we see an idol of jealousy. But not just any idol. It's the idol that provokes to jealousy. So, do you know what that idol is? And is that really what the Hebrew says? Let's find out. Hey, this is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. Okay, let's get right to it. Now, if you haven't seen our teachings titled The Image of the Beast or The Return of the Tent, you'll want to view those when you're done with this short teaching. These two teachings show how the Ark of the Covenant and the original tabernacle will come out for the end times, and how the ark will be used as the image of the beast. Yes, that's what I said. The ark will be the image of the beast. I know that sounds silly to some, but trust me, when you watch those teachings, you'll see the biblical precedents for it. In fact, what you're about to see in this short teaching shows it just the same. Now, I really don't want to focus too much on the speculation of timing. I mainly want to show what happens when the timing begins. In Ezekiel 4, we read about the prophesied 430 days on Judah and the northern kingdom, 40 days for Judah and 390 for the northern kingdom. Down in chapter 8, we find an interesting phrase. It's mentioned in a vision of the future given to Ezekiel that happened right before the 40 days of judgment that comes on Judah. The first 40 of the 430 days. Those 40 days are expounded on in chapter 9. We'll get there in a moment, but first, chapter 8, starting in verse 3. He stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven, and in visions of God he took me to Jerusalem, to the entrance to the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. And there it is, the idol that provokes to jealousy. What is this idol? I've heard it said, any idol placed within the temple grounds would have qualified as an image of jealousy. The problem is, the Hebrew doesn't say it's an idol. The Hebrew actually says image of jealousy. This is why other translations like the ESV shows it as image. We even see this word that's only used 5 times in its various forms in Scripture, describing actual idols in Deuteronomy 4:16. Seen right here, describing the images of idols, showing us this is an image, a representation of jealousy. It's not an idol of jealousy. It's a specific image of jealousy. The Hebrew actually reads, which there dwell image, the jealousy, the to be jealous, which could also imply the image is dwelling within something. So what would be an image of jealousy to Yahweh that dwells within something? What reminds him of a particular jealousy? Remember, he's a jealous God. This is shown in multiple verses, as seen here in Exodus 34:14 and Deuteronomy 4:24. And remember, this isn't any image of jealousy. It's implied to be a specific image that provokes to jealousy. This image is mentioned again 2 verses later in verse 5. What image would provoke Yahweh to jealousy? Yahweh declared himself to be the husband of Israel, as seen here in Isaiah 54, verse 5, and Jeremiah 3:14. Why is this? Because they made a covenant at Mount Sinai. The covenant when the people said, we will do everything Yahweh has said. We will obey, as seen here in Exodus 24, verses 3 and 7. It was a marriage covenant. Then the tablets to that covenant was placed inside the Ark of the Covenant, as seen here in Deuteronomy 10, verse 5, showing the Ark of the Covenant was the constant reminder to Yahweh and the people of the covenant they made, a covenant that Yahweh was jealous of his people over, showing us the Ark is the specific image of jealousy mentioned in Ezekiel. Yahweh's a jealous God. The Ark represents the covenant that was made with his people. The Ark is the image that represents his jealousy. It represents the covenant they broke. Now, notice in this vision of the future given to Ezekiel how the verses say it sets in front of the north gate. If you're familiar with the Temple Mount, that's the large open area behind the Dome of the Rock right now, which is the future to Ezekiel. It's the only place they can put it. So, this vision of the future is set sometime before the 40 days of destruction that comes on Judah. The Ark and the tabernacle has to come out and be set up before those 40 days begin. As noted at the beginning, I don't want to focus too much on the possible timing. However, there are some indications of timing given to Ezekiel as to when the ark and tabernacle is set up. As seen here in verses 14 and 15, it's around the time when women are weeping for Tammuz. There's a debate if this is showing the 40 days of fasting during Lent in the spring, or if it's the 40 days of fasting from the first of Elul to the Day of Atonement in the fall. I'm open to either. In the next verse, we see men with their backs toward the temple of Yahweh and their faces toward the east. They're bowing down to the sun in the east. And for what it's worth, the words used for temple here are generic words that could refer to the tabernacle just as much as the stone temple, but still showing Ezekiel seeing one of them in this vision of the future in the end time. However, the focus of this verse is on the men turned away from it, bowing to the sun in the east. Bowing to the sunrise in the east, a practice thought to be what started sunrise services for Easter in the spring. The only time the sun rises in due east is the equinoxes. The first element given in these verses seems to imply it's the season of fasting or weeping. Then, immediately, he's shown men bowing to the rising sun in the east. Most likely an equinox, since that's when the sun rises specifically due east. Then we see something rather strange being said right before the judgment is given in chapter 9. Verse 17 discusses something I sincerely believe has been misunderstood. It reads, Ezekiel 8:17, He said to me, Have you seen this, son of man? Is it a trivial matter for the house of Judah to do the detestable things they are doing here? Must they also fill the land with violence and continually provoke me to anger? Look at them, putting the branch to their nose. Therefore, I will deal with them in anger. I will not look on them with pity or spare them. Although they shout in my ears, I will not listen to them. It says, look at them putting the branch to their nose. Now, I have found nothing recorded to any pagan tradition with Tammuz of people putting branches to their nose for any reason. However, when looking at this phrase from a prophet who knew Hebrew prophecy, I believe we'll see it saying something else. The Hebrew says, Behold, sending the branch to the nose, or anger. The exact word with these specific vowel points for nose here is only used here in this verse. However, This word, with its various vowel points, is most always rendered as anger, as seen here in Genesis 39:19, Genesis 44:18, Genesis 49:6, Exodus 22:24, Exodus 32:10, and Numbers 11:10. And there are many more. It's even used as wrath here in Deuteronomy 32:22, 1 Samuel 28:18, Isaiah 10:25, Isaiah 13:3, and Isaiah 48:9. And with the word having a plural suffix, it shows the text can actually read, "Behold, sending the branch to their wrath." But how does that make any sense, right? A branch to their wrath? Well, though many hold to the branch spoken of here is discussing literal branches from trees, they're forgetting something important. The word for branch here is specific. It's used in the singular form with the direct object for the prefix. So, either all these people are putting a specific branch to their noses, or Ezekiel is referencing a specific branch from Hebraic prophecy. Thus, this specific branch being referenced is Yeshua himself. Yeshua is the branch of David, as seen here in Zechariah 6:12. Jeremiah 23, verse 5, Jeremiah 33:15, and Zechariah 3:8. When we realize Ezekiel is actually referring to Yeshua, the branch of David, it makes sense for it to be discussing his wrath. Thus, behold, sending the branch to their wrath. In other words, bringing Yeshua to the point of sending them their deserved wrath. Thus, what we see in the next verse, verse 18. Therefore, I will deal with them in anger. I will not look upon them with pity or spare them. Although they shout in my ears, I will not listen to them. That definitely sounds like they drove him to the point of wrath that's to be placed on them. Because of that anger, which seems to climax at the equinox, we see the judgment coming in the following verses. Ezekiel 9:1. Then I heard him call out in a loud voice, "Bring the guards of the city here, each with a weapon in his hand." And I saw 6 men coming from the direction of the upper gate, which faces the north, each with a deadly weapon in his hand. With them was a man clothed in linen, who had a writing kit at his side. They came in and stood beside the bronze altar. Notice it says the bronze altar in the last verse. The bronze altar is what sits out in front of the tabernacle, showing the tabernacle will be set up when it all starts with the image of jealousy, the Ark of the Covenant, dwelling within it. Thus, the vision of the future was showing Ezekiel the Ark of the Covenant at the north gate in the first part of chapter 8, placing it at the north gate, the only place for it to be set up. I can easily see them setting up the tabernacle here with the intentions of taking total control of the Temple Mount and start building the stone temple where the Dome of the Rock sits now. Now, I get it. That's speculation, of course. But it would definitely get Jerusalem surrounded to start things off. Again, for more on this topic, please see our teachings, The Image of the Beast and The Return of the Tent. Exactly when will it all take place? Well, that remains to be seen. But the more I look at Scripture, I believe there's little doubt the ark and the tabernacle, with all that goes with it, will come out for the end times. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, shalom.